Hello and welcome to the Amateur of Life and Death podcast. I'm Liz Plumpton. Each episode takes a look at a different aspect of the wonderful world of amateur theatre and features an amateur theatre maker talking about their theatrical life, theatrical loves, and the times when they've died on stage. This month's episode explores Jeff Bowen and Hunter Bell's meta-musical Title of Show. I'll be talking to Mark Horn about his life and loves in amateur theatre. Mark is playing Jeff in the Crescent Theatre's forthcoming production of Title of Show. The show is on in the Ron Barber studio from the 10th to the 17th of May 2025. And now I'm delighted to be joined by performer Mark Horn. Welcome to the podcast, Mark.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here. Have a bit of a chat about your long association with the Crescent Theatre.
Very excited to be here.
And also we'll come on in a little bit to Title of Show, the show that you're currently rehearsing. But let's kick off by going back in time a little bit. Tell us about your first love. Where did it all start?
I think the first love of theatre came from my nan, I think, because I used to spend quite a lot of time with my nan when I was a boy. And she loved musicals and watching musicals and the theatre, and it kind of started with sort of going around to my nan's watching musicals, old MGM musicals, and because I was interested in singing and dancing. And my mum and dad would take us to pantos and things like that. But I think the first time that ever really kind of resonated with me, my nan took me to see a ballet at the Hippodrome, and I was probably about 9 or 10, and it was I think it was like the first grown-up show that I'd been to see, and I just remember being sat there and thinking, wow, it was so grand, you know, and it was the first time I'd been into the Hippodrome Theatre, and I was like, wow. And although it was ballet, so it was just music and dance, something kind of resonated with me there, and I thought, this is what I need to do.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a show. I wouldn't say it was the first show I loved, but my first love for being in a theatre and wanting to be on stage. Yeah. That was probably the moment.
Yeah. If we can explore your past in theatre a little bit more, I think you were in the Crescent Youth Theatre.
I was, yes.
Tell us about that.
So I first started. I think my mum saw an advert in the Evening Mail, and they were asking for children for the pantomime, which was Cinderella. They were doing one Christmas, so I auditioned for that and got in, and then got to meet people who were doing other shows at different theatres. Some were doing stuff at the Rep, and some were interested in joining the youth theatre at the Crescent, and that's kind of how I heard about it.
So was the pantomime an adult company show?
So it was
like a children's chorus?
So it was an adult company show, and then they called us Crescentinis because we were teenies. So that was the first show that I ever did at the old theatre. And as I say, that sort of then got me into the youth theatre. I was a little bit older, I suppose, because from after that show, I did some shows at the Rep every Christmas, because the Rep used to put musicals on every year. Yeah. So I did, and they were Wizard of Oz and Alice in Wonderland and Damn Yankees. So a few years went by, and then I joined the youth theatre. So I was a little bit older.
So in those Christmas shows, was that singing and dancing? What were you doing?
Yeah. So it was paid professional work.
Yeah.
So for being so young, and I was at school, so we had to get the licensing lady to come and sign you off work. So it was really exciting, because I was like doing something that I loved and being paid for it. Yeah. Just in the chorus, I think Wizard of Oz, I was a munchkin and a child from Emerald City, but it was just an amazing experience. And to do it at the Rep, you know, to be in a professional, be on a professional stage was great. And then doing it the first year, the director then asked me to go back and do it the following 2 years. So that's when I did Alice in Wonderland the following year, and then the year after that, Damn Yankees. So that was really, really exciting, and met some famous people, because some famous people were in the cast. And met some lifelong friends doing it as well. And some of the people that were doing those shows were members of the Crescent as well.
Right.
So that's again how I sort of thought, right, I'm going to go and join the youth theatre. So that's kind of how the link to
Yeah,
the theatre.
And how long were you in the youth theatre for?
Oh,
Ish.
oh gosh, I think I must have joined. I can't remember how old you had to be when you joined. What the age was? Probably about 13, maybe.
Yeah.
And probably a good 5 years, I think, 6 years. It was kind of before I started to go to college. So it was those sort of years,
school,
in between. And I mean, it was brilliant, you know. And we did lots of shows. I mean, some I can't probably remember, but things, you know, from Shakespeare. We did Taming of the Shrew, and we did that in the sort of open air theatre at Mac, and so some really good things for a youth theatre and being so young. Yeah. And that kind of got me more interested in the acting side of things. Although obviously everything comes together. If you're in a musical and you sing and you dance and you are acting as well, but just doing sort of acting pieces, and we do improvisation things on a Saturday morning, and we just had so much fun. Yeah, it was great.
Were there any other current Crescent members in the youth theatre when you were then?
Hugh Blackwood was there. There's probably others. I'm not going to be able to remember that we're still members. I don't think there's anybody else. Only still Hugh that I can remember. I'm still friends with a lot of the people. And
in terms of the singing and dancing, was that something you were like taught, or were you just like a natural? Had you have lessons?
Well, I used to go to dance school as a boy. And not singing lessons, I just could sing. But I used to go to dance class, although my dad didn't really want me to go to dance class. But anyway, I persuaded my mum and she was like, okay. So I kind of did all my sort of grades, you know, tap, modern, disco, jazz, all the sort of things that you would do at dance school. And just loved it. And that my first love really is singing, because that's what I really love to do, which I think is why I just naturally fell into musicals rather than going into doing other things, really. Yeah. And so after the sort of youth theatre sort of finished, and we had that sort of stretch in the youth theatre, I was kind of going to college, so my life took a different direction, and so I had a bit of a gap then before I sort of came back again, because I was, you know, approaching 18, 19, and got distracted with other things, as you do, and going out and socialising and all that sort of stuff. So I did have a bit of a gap in between that time before coming back again.
And can you remember when you came back as like an adult?
Yeah. So I'd met my partner, and it had been a few years, not a lot of years, but probably 3 or 4, maybe. It seems longer than it was. And I thought, right, it's time to go back now, because I'd really missed it. I'd still sang and done things outside of the theatre, because I used to sing in social clubs as well. Yeah. So I still sang, but I really missed being in the theatre. Yeah. So I rejoined. Now you're going to ask me again, I can't remember. But the first show that I did after I rejoined was Full Monty.
Okay, I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the year I joined, I think.
Was it?
Yeah.
So I mean, you might remember the year, but I can't. It was a few years ago.
2008, I think.
Maybe.
That was.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a while. It was a while back. Okay. And then, kind of since then, I've kind of on and off most years done the musicals. Yeah. Not every year.
And a few wassails, quite a few wassails.
And a lot of wassails, at Christmas time. But in the main, it's been musicals that I've done.
You're being quite modest, but you are a bit of a triple threat, Mark. So you're very good value for a musical if you need singing, dancing, and acting.
Well, yeah, and I think, you know, and I am part of other societies, you know, and they tend to put on big musicals that you need dancers for, and you need to be able to do all of those things. Not everyone, but generally they are. And the Crescent have always put musicals on that you don't necessarily need to have all of those things involved.
We tend not exclusively, but we've often done more acting musicals. And characters
and play
singing.
to the strengths of the people that you've got in the theatre, because there are a lot of more actors at the theatre, rather than people who perhaps are used to doing musical theatre who do. But so I suppose in that way we're sometimes limited on the shows you could put on because of the people.
We don't have at our fingertips a large membership of really trained dancers, I think it's fair to say.
So, but you know, I have to say that, you know, the Crescent musicals are brilliant, and what we put out and what we perform are brilliant. And I mean, that's, you know, a testament to, you know, Crazy for You was a big show for the Crescent, and probably one of the first where we needed those dancers, and you know, it was a big sort of dancey show, and that was brilliant, you know, to be part of, because it was different to everything else we'd put on before. And a big task really to put on. But you know, it was brilliant. And it was, although it was very draining physically.
So is that I'm coming on to my next question. Is that the love of your theatrical life, or is there another show that really stands out for you?
I think, well, there's...
Because that was a special one, wasn't it?
It was.
You and Bobby.
And
that's a big role in a
massive
big show.
It probably is up there with it's probably joint number one. It was a really special show, and it was the company were brilliant, and you know, when people say, oh, the rehearsal process was so brilliant, you know, and everyone got on, and people are like, really, is that the truth? But they really did. And you know, when people who were naturally not dancers that were in the show, like, surprised everybody because they were so brilliant.
I remember that about it. That there were some real, like, stalwart Crescent members in that show. John Whittell, Les Stringer, Brendan, and
Toby.
I remember being really impressed with the choreography and the dancing. That was it, Colin?
Colin Lang. I mean, he
Colin Lang got
amazing.
From those, you know, from those members who are, I hope they wouldn't mind me saying, they probably won't badge themselves as dancers, but what was produced was fantastic.
Yeah, it was brilliant, and a massive part. And also, you know, a friend, Tiff, who's my mate, obviously played opposite me as Polly said. That was special as well, and it was a really special show. We were really, you know, sad when it came to an end, although we were glad of the rest. So that probably is. I would probably say that was up there. With the other one is probably La Cage aux Folles, which I didn't do with the Crescent. I did with Stourbridge Operatic Society, because that was my first show with them. And again, a massive part.
Who did you play?
I played Alban.
Okay.
So it's, you know, it's a huge task to play. And it was just, that was amazing as well. That was really special show. I think because it was the first one with that society as well. And, you know, again, I got to meet friends that I'm still friends with now and have made lifelong friends. But again, because of the sort of part that it was, and it's a part that I've always wanted to play. And we've tended never to put shows on like that here. So when I got the opportunity, I was like, right, yes, I've got to go and do that. And that was really, really special.
It's a great sort of book as well, isn't it? It's funny and
well, coming to and the film The Birdcage, but and all very, again, because that was a massive part and very sort of not so much dancing, but performing. You know, you're on stage, you know, most of the time. It was
drag.
And in drag and in full drag. With lots of things that could potentially go horribly wrong, and did sometimes. So that was a challenge, and quick changes and all that jazz. But they're the two I think stand out. But I've loved you know, all the shows that I've been in for different reasons, but they're probably the top two.
Yeah.
I would say.
And if there is one, tell us about the one that got away.
I don't know if there is one that got away.
Is there a part you never got to play that you think, maybe I'm too old now, or do you know what I mean? That could be one of those.
I think the only one here, and it wasn't that I didn't audition for it, and I think it was because there must have been a reason why I didn't audition for it, because I generally have auditioned for most. I must have been on holiday or something.
Yeah.
Was company.
Right.
To play Bobby. Another Bobby, yeah. Because, and then when I saw the cast, I was like, oh, I really wish I'd have done it now. And I think I was away, so I don't think I could have done it, because I think I would have missed some of the performances. I did see it, but you know, my friend Nick played Bobby, and he was wonderful in it. Yeah. But I probably would have said that part. Yeah.
Are you a Sondheim fan?
I love Sondheim, although it petrifies the life out of me to sing it.
Why?
Well, it's just very complex and it's very difficult. But I think that's one of the brilliant things that we do so well here. The music, you know, and obviously having a wonderful musical director like Gary Spruce, you know, at the helm really helps. You know, and, you know, recently we did Into the Woods, and musically it's so hard.
It is.
It's so difficult to do. You know, when you listen to professionals talk about it that do it, they're like, you quake with fear when you hear the word Sondheim, because you know how difficult it's going to be. But it was so amazing when you think of the things that we can pull off.
Do you have a favourite Sondheim, or one that, you know, we've not done at the Crescent or not done in your time?
We've done quite a lot of Sondheim, haven't we?
Oh, I don't know if we've never done it, but we've not very recently ever done Follies.
No, I was just going to say Follies. Yeah. That would be a good show.
I think it's the dancey, younger dancing girls. Maybe.
Yeah,
that's a bit of a, I don't know, would be a challenge for us, but it's a great show.
Yeah, brilliant show, really good.
And tell us about a time when you died on stage. Or when something went wrong.
On stage. Oh God, there's been so many times.
Or a few.
I've never actually died on stage, like in a part died.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Oh gosh, I think there's probably three things that have happened that really stand out. So when I was in Le Cage Fall with Stourbridge, in Mascara the Number, you basically have to get changed, put makeup on and false eyelashes while singing the song, which is no mean feat.
Yeah.
And one of the nights I put my eyelash on upside down, so it was permanently closed. So I had to do the whole number with one eye, basically. So that wasn't the greatest moment of my life. The other one was in Full Monty.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah.
Was it the first night? I think it was the first night. I played Malcolm. So the first scene that I'm in a car trying to commit suicide.
Yeah.
And we used a real car.
Yeah.
And they pushed it on, and it got on fine.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the scene, they couldn't get the car off. So, and I think it was...
Were you still in it? Or
I'd got out of the car by this point. Yeah. But trying to get the car off, they couldn't get it off. And it literally took about 20 minutes. And we thought we were going to have to bring the curtain down and sort of stop the show. And the audience were great. They were laughing away and they kind of was with us. But that kind of went to the point where we were all a bit like, oh no, what's gonna happen?
So were they just pushing it with like the handbrake off? Was it?
Yeah, I think it's because it was someone had to steer it inside the car.
Okay.
So someone was pushing. So as we came on, I was in the car and I could kind of steer it.
Yeah.
But the person obviously being reversed didn't steer it very well. So it kind of just hit the wing. So that was a bit of a bad one. And then Crazy for You, in one of the numbers where I'm meant to be drunk, just before I sing the duet with Zangler, there was a staircase on the stage and I'm meant to kind of just fall down the stairs drunk, and as I did, I ripped my heel off my dance shoe. Well, almost off, it was hanging off, and then fell off, and then had to do a massive dance scene.
Was it a tap number?
No, it was a normal dance number, but the dance shoes had got a heel. They were like professional dance shoes.
So like a fairly
a fairly substantial heel. So then I had to do the dance with like one heel. And so
did anyone notice?
And I don't. Well, I hope they never notice. I mean, I did, and it was really funny because I ran off to the back of the stage, and there was lots of costume changes in that show. Fast costume changes from Bobby to Zangler, then Zangler back to.
Did you have a wig?
Yeah, and a moustache. And one night when I was kissing Tiff in one scene, the moustache half stuck to Tiff's face. So that was quite funny. But and it was, I think this happened with my shoe on the Saturday matinee as we were closing, and we'd got this Saturday evening. And I remember just coming backstage and saying, my shoe's broken, someone's going to have to fix it. And Jazz, who is a member here, she said, don't worry, it's fine, I'll go. And the next thing I know, Jazz is in the workshop with my dance shoe in a vice, with nails and glue in it, and trying to stick the heel back onto the shoe. They did. So we went on the night time, and that was fine. But they're probably the three that I can remember. There's probably been loads of things that have gone wrong.
I think the more variables you have, like costume changes, wigs, it just,
I mean, there's been lots.
Increases the jeopardy.
There's been lots of times where I've not made costume changes or not made it on stage in costume changes. Probably when I did Priscilla with Stourbridge. Some of the costume changes were so fast out of one dress into another. And I think I went on with one shoe on and one shoe off on one of the performances because I just didn't have time to get it on.
The thing I always get, I mean, I don't do musicals, but I'm kind of fascinated by them. And when you've got a big costume change, especially if it involves like a wig or changing all of that stuff, and you've also got a mic pack that you've got to try and also keep in place, or sometimes take off and then put back on because it's got to go around, whatever's on your head. Yeah.
And some of the dresses were not easy to get into, especially if they were quick changes in the wings.
Priscilla, Queen of the Dead?
For Priscilla and Lacage. I mean, in one number for Lacage, I changed twice. There was 2 costume changes in one number. And the sequined purple gown, I mean, they were very grand and they were beautiful dresses. I mean, they were from the original production.
Oh, wow.
So they were kind of almost falling apart.
Okay, yeah. Cool.
Literally, I was stitched into it. It was, and there was hook and eyes all down it. So you can imagine it was so difficult to get on. But bless her, I'd asked my best friend, Nikki, if she would be my dresser because I needed someone I could trust. Yeah. Someone who was like meticulous in what they did, and she was brilliant, but it was very stressful.
Yeah. Well, it was almost as much drama off stage, I think.
Oh, far more off stage.
I love those behind the scenes videos of people doing really quick changes in like professional shows and stuff. It's so interesting. Okay, let's come on now then to talk about title of show, which you're currently rehearsing. It's on in the Ron Barber studio here at the Crescent from the 10th to the 17th of May. Tell us a little bit about the show and your character.
So the show really is quite simple. Well, it's not simple. So it's about 4 friends who kind of get together to write a show to be put on Broadway, basically, to put a musical show on. And they get the opportunity to put a submission through to the festival, and they've got 3 weeks to do it. And basically that's the kind of story of it. They've got 3 weeks to write this musical, and it's the kind of journey they go through to get to that submission, and then it goes a bit further on than that, it goes.
And that would be like a kind of breakthrough thing for them to win this festival, presumably.
Yeah.
They're sort of trying to get into creating new musical theatre.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So and it's kind of just that process really, and what they all kind of go through. And my character is Jeff. So Jeff is the composer, and he's a bit of a nerd. Yeah. He's a bit nerdy. He's a bit geeky. I would probably is the best way to describe him. Yeah. And he's obviously best friends with Hunter, and Hunter is the writer. Yeah. So Hunter is the more, I would say, flamboyant out of the two, a bit more of a risk taker, just a bit more composed. So, and then we've obviously got Heidi and Susan, the other two sort of female characters in it. And it's really just about, the show is about friendship, really, and about having a dream and making that dream turn into a reality, really, and kind of how they do that sort of journey. And there are some moments in the show that are quite sad and quite touching, because it generally is quite funny, and it kind of goes, there's lots of music in it. It goes from, majority of it is song.
Right,
there's and dialogue within the songs.
Yes, yeah.
But yeah, it kind of, they go on a roller coaster of a journey.
Yeah, with time pressure.
Yeah, time pressure.
And Heidi and Susan, they are more performers, are they? They're kind of...
Yeah, so actors. Heidi's a performer.
Yeah.
So she's your typical sort of, performing...
New York.
Yeah, New York
musical
performing
theatre.
musical theatre.
Yeah.
Susan isn't so much.
Okay.
Susan's just got a normal day job, but they are friends, I think, from sort of uni days. And she's a little bit more quirky than Heidi, and I think Heidi's a little bit intimidated by Susan because she is a little bit different.
Yeah.
So Susan not so. I think she doesn't come from that background. So they're all very different characters. So unusual, really, how they kind of are all such good friends. But I suppose that works, really, when everyone is so different.
And the show's very meta because you play Jeff Bowen, and Jeff Bowen is the composer and lyricist of the piece, isn't he? And Hunter Bell they're real people.
They are real people.
So the original cast were the writers and their co-creators, and the content is obviously about those real people writing a musical. Does that affect, does that have any impact, do you think, on your performance, knowing that you're actually, that you're all playing real people who originated the show?
I've tried really not to think about it because things like that really panic me.
Yeah.
I
try not. Come, so don't worry.
No, they're not going to come.
They won't know.
I try not to think too deep. That's just how I am. I try not to get too worry too much about things like that. But other, Jo's in the show, she kind of talks about that. She's like, are we them? Are we playing them, or are we playing a character of them? So you kind of have to sort of try and work that out. And I've seen some clips of the real people on YouTube and things like that. So, but I think we are playing a character of them, rather than trying to play them. So yeah, and I think the studio is a great space to put a show like this on, because it lends itself to that sort of space, and we're doing it in the sort of thrust,
nice,
which is. I'm sure I've done that sort of before. Yeah, I'm sure I have. But again, you kind of have to think about, your spacing, and when you are doing scenes that don't involve sort of any movement or anything like that, because of the way that you sort of set out on stage. And we've got a brilliant director, Karen. And she's...
Who you've worked with before.
That I've worked with before. Oh, in Sweeney Todd, she was Mrs. Lovett. A musical of musicals, of course, in the studio. And that was a four-hander.
Yes.
So, yeah. And I mean, that, again, and saying that was a great show as well. And, yeah, so it was really exciting, actually, when I saw that Karen was going to be sort of directing it, because I've always kind of admired Karen from afar, because, she's a great actress.
Yeah.
And has done more probably serious, straight plays rather than...
Yes.
She's done lots of musicals.
But yes, she has probably done more straight drama.
Yeah. And she directs a lot.
Yeah.
So I thought this is going to be really interesting to have someone like Karen direct. And it has been, because she kind of... she does make you think more about your character.
Yes.
So, which is kind of doesn't always happen. You know, you kind of find sometimes you just find your own character and sort of just get on because there's so much to think about.
Yes. Yeah.
Which has been really refreshing because she's like, right, well, how does Jeff feel now in this situation? So it makes you think more, which sometimes makes you feel a bit uncomfortable because you're like, oh, I don't know, well, I don't know. But I think it will pay out in terms of, you know, the performance of it. And we're having a great time. I think when it's a small cast and there's only 4 of you, you kind of gel and you get really close to one another anyway. So yeah, you know, we're playing some of it directly to the audience as well in not all the time, but in parts.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a good show.
So it was first performed in New York in 2004, and I think it's been further developed a little bit by the people that wrote it, and it's been revived multiple times in the last 21 years. Why do you think it's endured? What do audiences love about it?
I think it's kind of got a bit of a cult following. I think it's kind of one of those sort of shows that's got a bit of a cult following. Probably a bit like Rent, if that makes sense. Yeah. So it kind of reminds me a little bit like that when you listen to some of the music. It kind of, sometimes you listen to it. I was listening to it with my partner the other day and he was like, that sounds like Rent. Some of the music sounds like the way that they sing it. And he said it's very similar. So, and I think it's probably because it really did happen as well. You know, it's a true story which resonates with people. And I don't think although there's references to different musical genres of music, I don't think you would need to necessarily to know that or to understand that to just come and enjoy the show.
Right. Yeah, so I was going to ask that. Like, do you have to be a real musical theatre like aficionado to get it, or will anybody get it?
No, I think anyone will get it because some of my friends have got no idea about musical theatre. And I was talking to them about it, and they were like, "Oh, are we going to have to understand, you know, all the different genres of musicals and where it's all coming from?" Because Musical of Musicals was a bit like that.
That was a bit of a journey, wasn't it? Through like the evolution of about 100 years or so of musical theatre styles. Yeah.
So you kind of, if you didn't know what they were trying to sort of take off, you probably wouldn't have got that. You could have still enjoyed the show, I think. But no, because it is a story about 4 friends who are kind of just going on this journey together, even if you didn't get those musical references, you would still enjoy the show. Yeah. So I don't think you would need to.
And do you think it has a message? And if so, what is that?
I think the message is probably hope. Having hope and having a dream and friendship. They're the things that really resonate with me is friendship and having sort of a dream and that hope that you can achieve something, you know.
Because it's a hard industry, creative arts, performing, being a playwright or a composer, isn't it? It's very difficult to break through. So having hope that you can do that is hard.
And I think that's where the key comes to it, is that having such good friendship as well, because they're so close. Although they're very different, they're very close, and they kind of all go on that sort of journey together. You know, and one of the lines is, who says 4 chairs and a keyboard can't make a Broadway musical? And that's basically what it is. It's 4 chairs and a keyboard. And, you know, it did get to Broadway and it did win a Tony. I think it won a Tony, did it? Or was it nominated?
I think it was nominated for a Tony, but you know.
So, but you know, it got there.
It got there,
and that's amazing. So, I
like
think
a bit of an underdog story in a way. Yeah. Do you have a favourite song from the show?
Yes.
Can
so
you
I
tell
would
us about
probably say it was 9 People's Favourite Thing is my favourite. So that comes towards the end of the show. Yeah. And it's just a really lovely song. And it's kind of at a point where we're all kind of back liking each other again
So
after we've had a bit of a spat.
Yeah.
And it's kind of where it's just a really uplifting song. And it's just a great moment in the show, just before the very end.
And that's all four of you singing.
Yeah, it's all four of us. And that's definitely my favourite. Definitely my favourite.
And that's about, you'd rather be 9 people's favourite thing than, is it 100 people's 9th favourite thing?
Yeah.
So you'd rather have like a small number of really good fans or friends or people that get you than be
liked
by but not loved by a bigger number of people.
So the message is really quite poignant, really, and at that point in the show, and that's definitely the standout song for me, and I think the audiences will like that one as well. I think they'll like all of them.
Yeah.
Some of them are a bit way out there, like Die Vampire Die is very odd, but that one for me is my favourite.
Great. Okay, Mark, we can't let you go without subjecting you to our backstage binaries.
Oh gosh.
These are quick-fire binary option questions, and I'm just looking for your first instinctive response.
Okay.
And at the end, you can clarify one of them if you would like to.
Okay.
On stage or backstage?
On stage.
Act or direct?
Act.
Lighting or sound?
Sound.
Rehearsal or performance?
Performance.
Tech or dress?
Dress.
Sing or dance?
Sing.
Hair or makeup?
Hair.
Modern or period?
Period.
Comedy or tragedy?
Oh, comedy.
Set or props?
Set.
Musical or play?
Musical.
Air freshener vampire or vampire of despair?
Air freshener vampire.
9 people's favourite thing or 100 people's 9th favourite thing?
Oh, 9 people's favourite thing.
Okay. Are there any of those you'd like to clarify or that you found difficult to choose between?
Which one did I find difficult to choose between?
Hair or makeup?
Hair or makeup. And period or modern.
Yes.
I like both, really, and doing a mixture of both. So I wouldn't say I preferred one over the other, because some period stuff is just as good to do, if not better sometimes, than some of the modern stuff. Sometimes some of the modern stuff has got no substance to it.
I think you get more fun like costumes and hair and that period.
Definitely.
You get that sort of stepping into a time that you may have never lived, or you know what I mean. That's quite fun about stuff.
So, but I think the other ones were fine. I think I stumbled at hair and makeup because I don't like wearing wigs on stage. Although most of the female people that I work with are like, oh no, I would rather have a wig than have to worry about doing my own hair every night. But I hate wigs and I hate props. I hate props. So that was an easy one.
Oh, brilliant. Well, thank you very much for coming on to the podcast, Mark. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We look forward to seeing Title of Show in the Ron Barber studio from the 10th to the 17th of May.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Amateur of Life and Death podcast. If you'd like to listen to more, make sure you subscribe at podcast.crescent-theatre.co.uk or via Spotify or Apple Podcasts to get the next episode. You can find out more about the Crescent Theatre Birmingham and our upcoming productions, including Title of Show, by visiting www.crescent-theatre.co.uk or by following us on social media. Amateur of Life and Death is a Crescent Theatre production. This episode was researched and presented by Liz Plumpton. The music is by Brendan Stanley, and this episode was edited by Liz Plumpton.